Was that a line from Robert Frost?
I don't think so.
Is that what that was from?
I don't think so.
It was very poetic, though.
It was.
It's beautiful, actually.
Man's got two things, his word and his nuts.
Is that Bill Shakespeare over there? Dad, I wish you would just shut your yapper. All right, it is a Thursday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson, Corey Anderson, and Beards. We head up until 2 o'clock. We've got you for the next 4 hours talking some NFL football. Some college basketball, too. Myron Medcalf joins us in the noon hour.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we get that rolling as
He's
well.
He's back for the rest of the college basketball season.
Guess who's back?
Thursdays at noon. That's the plan, unless the Chiefs swap things around on us again.
Yeah.
But we think we're going to have Myron Thursdays at noon going forward.
Yeah, because the Chiefs have moved things to 1 o'clock.
Yep.
The last, 2-3 weeks? So we'll see if that continues, that trend. I would expect it would. But we'll find out, which means that it throws a wrench into sports or leisure. So we do not get a full hour of sports or leisure. We get the sports or leisure post Andy Reid and today Trey Smith with whatever is left over. So it is an abbreviated sports or leisure today in the 1 o'clock hour presented by Johnny's Tavern. But we'll still get that and try to get some gift cards in the hands of some listeners and see what the percentage off on Monday will be on the whole specialty pizza. Dine-in only, any Johnny's Tavern location. We're going to give you $25 of sports or leisure. They're going to give you the percentage off, however many points the Chiefs score. You got 31% off on Monday. And you probably didn't think you would have got 31% off on Monday at halftime when the Chiefs had 28. Like, I'm going to get 40% off?
Yeah.
40-something? Are they going to hang a 50 burger? Am I going to buy one, get one, essentially? Let's do this. But that's all right, still 31% off. A pie there at Johnny's Tavern, and we'll see what it will be this weekend as the Chiefs and Broncos go at it on Saturday afternoon, just a couple days away from the Chiefs somehow wrapping up their regular season. In a year that had 17 games, I have no idea how we've already made it to this point. This season has just flown by. It does it all the time. It's like you sit there and you go through the summer and the draft and free agency, and you're waiting to get to the games, and training camp feels like it takes a year to get to the games. And then the games start, and it's like, how is it week 18?
It's July and August that feel like a crawl.
Right.
When you're, especially when the Royals aren't good, and you're just waiting for football and waiting for football, and, and the Royals are just playing out the string.
So,
but the season, once it gets here, man, it's like, how the hell is it already over?
This would be wild card weekend right now if it wasn't for the extended season. So I'm good with it because we get more football. We get more regular season football. And the Chiefs and Broncos this weekend, we've talked about all the different scenarios that can take place, teams they might play, matchups, teams and how they end up with the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of those things are still up for grabs. The 1 seed in the NFC has been secured by the Packers. Every other seed other than that in the other 13 teams and 13 seeds are still available for multiple teams. So interesting, 2 through 7 and then 1 through 7 in the AFC. A lot of stuff to play for this weekend. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll see what ends up happening. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. 913-912-4810. We will talk with Kent Swanson coming up an hour from now. He is from KC Sports Network and also the KC Laboratory Podcast to get his thoughts on the Chiefs and Bengals game this past weekend. But, of course, the playoffs, matchups he would like to see, if his confidence is shaken at all with the game against the Bengals. I know that was part of the takeaway, especially on the defensive side of the football, is the confidence and the feel that the dominant part of the Chiefs during the winning streak was the Chiefs defense giving up 12 points per game. Chargers score 28 on them Thursday Night Football, and then the Bengals put 34 on them. So now you wonder, is this defense for real, or is it for real against lackluster offenses? They'll be tested, man. There is a scenario in which the Chiefs play the Chargers, Bengals, and Bills. It's a big difference between bye, Bills, and who knows at that point. I mean, to get to the AFC Championship game, you might have just had to beat the Bills at home as opposed to now you're going to have to beat the Chargers and Bengals. But more than likely. You never know. Yeah. You might have to beat the Raiders and whoever.
And then either go on the road to play the Titans
right.
or maybe at home against the Bills. Or yeah.
Your road might have been home Bills, home Titans, which, hey, you lost to both of them this year. It ain't exactly easy, right? No matter who gets to the Super Bowl this year from the AFC, will have earned it. If the Colts and Chargers win this weekend, where's the weak link to where you go, how did that team make the playoffs? Yeah. I mean, not this year.
To me, the weak link is the Patriots, and that's no gimme.
Yeah.
That's no walkover.
With that defense and Belichick
a couple weeks ago, we were talking about them as the number 1 seed.
Right.
I mean, they've fallen a little bit since then, but still, that's not the getting the Raiders or the Steelers just sneaking in. Mm-hmm. And the Chiefs are supposed to get the easiest team by being the 2 seed. They're supposed to get the 7 seed that just limps into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that 7 seed might be the Chargers, a team that's already beat them, and a team that they played twice this year. And you said it was, 58-58?
58-58.
In those 2 games?
Lost by 6, won by 6. They have tied. And so who knows what would happen in that game. Maybe this is just 1 year this year that, they extended the playoffs to 7. So you would expect with 7, there's probably more likely than other years that you would have a lesser than team that just found their way into the playoffs. And almost half the conference makes the playoffs. There's going to be a rummy somewhere. So I don't know if this is an indication of years to come with the AFC, or is this just 1 year to where you're seeing a lot of good teams at the same time that make it? Or is this the beginning of the AFC is going to be a bear for the next 4, 5, 6 years if Cincinnati and Burrow are for real, and Herbert and the Chargers are for real, and Allen and the Bills continue rolling?
Well, think about it.
Who knows with the Colts and Wentz? Who knows about that?
Yeah, maybe other than the Titans, because Tannehill's not young, Derrick Henry's not, this is his last year, right? This is his last year of his contract. Not to say that he won't be there, but every other team in the AFC, if you take out the Chiefs, because we're looking at their competition, every other team's kind of on their way up.
Yeah.
Maybe you say the Titans are plateaued, or maybe they're even kind of going down from being in the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. But
I think this year's Titans team is probably the pinnacle of what I think they could be.
Yeah. The other teams are kind of on their way up. So when you look at this and forecast it for the future seasons, not all of them are going to continue to progress.
For sure.
Some of them are going to, like the Browns last year, you were like, the Browns are on their way up. Yeah. And now suddenly this year it's like, wait a minute. So that could be the Bengals, that could be the Chargers, that could be the Colts, where you're like, hey, these teams' trajectory looks like it's going upward. Next season, we might be saying a couple of those teams are like, remember last year when we thought their trajectory was going upward? Now look at them, and now Baker Mayfield might not even be a Brown, and who knows what the hell's happening with that team. So, but right now, you look at their arrow, and the arrow is pointing up, I think, for every team except for the Titans. And if you say the Chiefs, maybe it's not pointing up. Maybe they've kind of plateaued because it's hard to go up from where they were going to back-to-back Super Bowls. But if they're still kind of the status quo or the benchmark of the team you're trying to chase in the AFC, all these other teams look like they're on the come.
Yeah, in 2019, when they win the AFC Championship and win the Super Bowl, and they go through the Texans at home, in which they're down 24-0, but then they just punk them after that. And the Titans, they're trailing, but then they just punk them. They were clearly the best team that year. You might have said the Ravens regular season because they were 14-2, so maybe people said, no, the Ravens were the best team that year. They just they picked their worst night to have the worst night, like the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Was that the line that Andy Reid gave or somebody else, that Chiefs picked he said, we picked our worst night to have our worst night. The Ravens picked a bad night to be awful against the Titans. So maybe if the Chiefs go to Baltimore, it's a different story, and Baltimore wins the Super Bowl in 2019. I don't know what happens there. But with the opponents they played, it didn't feel like, I didn't think the Texans were on the Chiefs level. And I heard about it on social media when the Chiefs were trailing 24-0. There were a lot of projection of frustrations with Chiefs fans at me for feeling like this is not going to be a game. The Chiefs are head and shoulders better than this Texans team. And then they showed it. And I felt the same thing about the Titans. Like, there was no concern. There should be in the playoffs, but there was no concern against the Texans and the Titans. There was concern against the 49ers because it's the freaking Super Bowl, and the 49ers defense was really, really good, and the running game was good, and the play action off of that. So there were some ways you could lose that game against the 49ers, and as it turned out, I mean, they were trailing by 10, with 8 minutes to go in the Super Bowl, and they had 3rd and 15 when they had the Jet Chip Wasp.
When they posed for their championship picture.
That's right, yeah.
In the end zone.
Yes, when Mahomes threw the interception that bounced off Tyreek Hill's hands, although that's not on Tyreek to me. That was on Patrick Mahomes and a bad pass, but still, that, to me, was a run to the Super Bowl that I didn't feel like there was a team in the AFC outside of the Ravens. I still would have taken the Chiefs over the Ravens in that game. We talked about that. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't a team outside of that I thought was going to touch the Chiefs in the AFC playoffs that year. Last year, felt the same thing. That, look at the playoffs, it's fine. I mean, they face off against the Browns. I didn't think they were going to have any trouble with the Browns. Maybe the game is different if Higgins, doesn't reach the ball out for the end zone, or Sorensen's not there at that exact time, what have you. But Mahomes gets hurt. Maybe it's different if Mahomes is healthy and they win by 25. And they're like, it wasn't really all that close. The Bills, I thought, was going to be a closer game. Like, I thought they were better than the Bills, but it was like, look, they're going to bring it. This is the AFC Championship game. The Bills are here. They feel like they've arrived, and the Chiefs are running it back. The Bills are playing for everything. Chiefs they already have their rings. So where's that drive and motivation to get back? It clearly was there, championship swagger. It was an easier game than I thought, but I thought the Chiefs were clearly better than the Bills. This year, I don't have that feeling. Mm-mm. Like, I'm not going to pick it, but if the Titans are in L.A., I would go, yeah, they had 2 home games. And they had Derrick Henry. And
I'd be surprised if it were.
Yeah, but if A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are making plays and Derrick Henry is there and all Tannehill has to do is just throw 10-yard passes and A.J. Brown breaks tackles and the defense is good enough, that would not surprise me for them to beat the Bills or, Bengals or Patriots or whoever they might end up playing in the first round. It would not surprise me. I guess they couldn't play the Bengals because if they're the 1 seed.
They could because the Bengals might be the 4.
Yeah, true. I'm just saying.
If the Bengals lose to the Browns,
I guess in my mind, I'm already counting it as 1, 2, 3, 4 as Bengals 3 and Bills 4. But regardless, like if they win that game and then they win at home in a close game by a field goal in which there's a late play made here or there, and they're playing in L.A., like I wouldn't have picked it, but I could see that happening because this year with the balance of the AFC and the 7 teams that I think are going to make it, the 5 that are already there and the 2 being Indianapolis and LA that I think are going to be there, that whoever's in LA freaking earned it in the AFC. Whoever is there went through either a gauntlet. Well, went through a gauntlet. I don't even say went through either, because even if Tennessee wins, they're going to have to face off against, Bills, Patriots, Colts, Bengals, Chiefs. 2 of those teams probably along the way to get there. And
I just hope COVID doesn't.
I agree.
I just hope everybody's healthy through the playoffs and that this isn't the team that handled COVID the best for those 3 weeks is the team that made their way through. Like, let it be about football.
No, I agree with that. 913-912-4810. We'll talk some more about that as the show goes along. Andy Reid, we'll hear from him in the 1 o'clock hour. Andy Reid and Trey Smith, as we said, Sports or Leisure. Myron Metcalf at noon. Kent Swanson at 11 o'clock. And again, your text, 913-912-4810. I wanted to start with this because people are clamoring to continue talking about the Bengals game.
Are they?
Absolutely.
That's what you're hearing?
That's everything I've heard the last couple of days.
It's been like more Bengals talk, please.
But honestly, though, isn't that what everybody's still talking about?
Because nobody's worried about the Broncos.
Right.
Like, if this were the Chiefs playing the Chargers or if this were the Chiefs playing the Bills, this would be a different story. I think everybody thinks Denver has kind of given up on their season. And it's funny hearing Adam Kaplan this morning on the Border Patrol saying, Drew Lock's coming off one of his best games ever as a pro. They scored 13 points.
Yeah.
I mean, the quarterback's coming off one of his best games as a pro, and they put up 13.
Yeah.
So if that tells you what you have to fear this weekend, there's not much.
But here's where I want to look back, but we're looking back to look forward. So we've discussed a lot the 3rd and 27 and the let them score. Okay. So I'm not going to look at that, break that down at all. What I want to do is look ahead to see if there's another situation like that in the future what do the Chiefs do in the playoffs?
So you're moving it forward. See,
that's exactly
just what everybody wants.
Advancing.
You can mention the Bengals.
That's right.
But you're moving it forward and how it could play out if this happens again.
No, because us talking about this, someone will go, you just spent 20 minutes continuing to talk about the Bengals game. No, we're talking about the future and what happens against whoever in the wild card round next weekend, or if they have the bye week and what have you. So what I wanted to do is go back and look at this season for the Chiefs, not just the Bengals game, but the entire season for the Chiefs. So Seren was talking yesterday about points per drive for the Chiefs this year as opposed to like when you see with Alex Smith. And you're saying Spags approached that. He said yesterday Spags approached the 3rd and 27 like it was 3rd and 6. They didn't want to give up a yard. That's why they blitzed everybody, played cover 0, went one-on-one with Jamar Chase. They didn't want to give up a yard to punt it. They didn't want to give up a field goal to go down 34-31 with 3:14 to play. Well, I guess at 3:14, the field goal would have been kicked. So it was 3:14 left after the 3rd and 27 play. He didn't want them to kick a field goal, right? Okay, that's been said. We know what happened from that point moving forward. But looking at what the Chiefs have done this year and wondering, do we see the same thing moving forward if there are 3 minutes left and 3 timeouts for a Chiefs team that has already put 31 points on the board, and I don't care about, well, second half they only put 3. They had 3 possessions, and we can go and break down the 2 possessions that they punted. We've done that as well. But if they look at it and go, no, we're not giving up a first down again, we'll give up 3 because we're going to put the ball back into Patrick Mahomes' hands with 3 and change and 3 timeouts. Do they do that differently moving forward? Because that is a strategy of you are a defensive-first, defensive-minded team, and you don't trust your offense against that team's defense. You don't want to give up a yard and give up 3 points. So I don't know that there's a defense left or that the Chiefs will face off against that you go, good luck getting 3 on that team. 3 minutes to go and 3 timeouts with the Chiefs offense. I mean, we'll see, especially when they'll have 4 downs to get it. Mm-hmm. It's not like I went through and looked at all of the possessions this year for the Chiefs that would have been end of half and end of game to see those possessions where it was, okay, they're driving, it's hurry up, they're up against the clock, they've got timeouts left, and they're trying to put points on the board. They only had 2 of those drives this year with the game on the line. There were 4 of them at the end of half. So they only had 6 drives, which I want to get into here in just a little bit. But looking at, what they've done this year in points per possession, they're sitting at, on the season, 2.7 and change. But that's including kneel downs. It's including running out the clock. It's including, it even includes this past weekend before half where they threw the deep ball to Tyreek Hill. It should have been caught, but they had the ball at their own 16-yard line with 30 seconds left. What are they really going to accomplish at that point? Like, is that a legit drive? Plus, they weren't saying we have to have 3 points. So it's 3rd and 9. We're not just handing the ball off up the middle to Derek Gore. That's not what we're going to do. We got to keep doing this to drive to put points on the board. So it's a little different from that standpoint. But of all the drives they have and the 2.7 points per drive that they have this year, includes kneel downs, includes running out the clock, into first half, end of game as well. If you eliminate those, the Chiefs, overall, this season, they are averaging 3.1 points per possession. Okay.
Which that 3.1 would probably even, in games where they've had big leads that weren't end of game,
right,
where they literally just kneeled out the clock, there are drives where you're just hoping to pick up a couple first downs, run a few minutes off the clock. Even if you punt, a successful drive is like 2 first downs, burning 4 minutes of clock. And they weren't really trying to score on those drives.
So if we even looked at the drives they were trying to score on, it's going to be well above 3.1.
Yep.
If you're looking at the last 4 games, take away kneel downs and things like that, it is 4.3 points per possession. That includes drives in which they may not be trying to score, like against the Steelers, but I also took out the kneel down at the end.
Yeah.
You're looking at over 4 points per possession in those. So if you're thinking, well, we didn't want to give up 3, well, the last 4 games, when your offense has turned it around, they're picking up more than 3 per possession. And that's without any drives that it's you have to score here. You're facing a fourth down
Yeah.
and timeouts. You're doing everything you can, and it's Mahomes being Mahomes. I mean, they had, before, at the end of regulation against the Chargers, they had to have that, right, to get that to go. And then, of course, that defense got to stop as well. And they went down and scored. Mm-hmm. And they did that. I mean, that would make 7 drives this year. I said 2 in the end of games. There's 3 of those, actually, end of games. There's 4 of them that were end of half situations, which are completely different than what the Chiefs would have faced off against. But even against Cincinnati, they were at almost 3.5 points per drive in that game specifically. So every way you slice it, they're averaging more than a field goal per drive.
Yep.
So question being, moving forward, and this is not even really talking about let them score or not. This is just a philosophy of we didn't want them to put any points on the board at all because that is a defensive-centric team's mindset. That is if they score, we're kind of done. Mm-hmm. If there were 20 seconds on the clock, yeah, I get it. At that point, first down's the same as 10, 15 yards. With that kicker, more than likely the same. There wasn't a gusty wind or anything crazy like that. It was pretty nice conditions to kick in. That guy's been kicking there all year, and he's had some pretty clutch kicks. He's got a big leg. He's pretty accurate. 10 yards is probably the same as a first down. Understandable. But with 3 and change left, so that to me is one of the things that we've wondered with the Chiefs coaching staff. Media's asked him many questions. Soren was talking about yesterday with the different coordinators of in-game situation scenarios, philosophy, things like that. What would you do moving forward, and why on 3rd and 27 did you bring that blitz? And as Spagnuolo said, we approach that as 3rd and 6. I hope that's not the feeling moving forward. But I was surprised to go back and look and see there were 4 drives late in the first half where the Chiefs had the ball with an actual chance of scoring, right? With 3 timeouts, minute something or, 50 seconds left, not 30 seconds at your own 16.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know that they hit Tyreek Hill late, but that's sort of a miracle type play when you're, scrambling to your right and you throw it back to your left, 64 yards. Yes, they have the ability to do that. But if you're looking at what a realistic, you got the ball at your own 25, minute 16 to go, 3 timeouts. Like against Buffalo. They're down 24-10. They got 2 timeouts, start at their own 25, minute 16 left, 7 plays. They picked up 39 yards. They hit a 54-yard field goal. They kicked the field goal on 3rd and 12. So they didn't even run a 3rd or 4th down play. So you go, well, yeah, they had to settle for a field goal there. Right, with 2 timeouts. But at the end of the game, or end of half, they kicked it to end the half, to trail 24-13 going into half. But they would have had 2 more downs to pick up 12 yards if it was a end of game. You have to kick a field or score here to tie or win. Against Green Bay, they had 27 seconds left. They were at their own 28. They had 3 timeouts. So they had 4 plays, 55 yards, and they kicked a field goal to go up 13-10. They kicked the field goal.
27 seconds.
Yes.
And they get a field goal.
55 yards.
It's crazy.
And they kicked the field goal on 3rd and 10. So they also didn't have a 3rd down or 4th down play.
But it was the end of the game.
Absolutely.
Like the end time.
Right. So that would be closer to if they did score on 4th down and you had the ball with 40-something seconds left, down 7 at that point. What are you going to do? Against the Raiders, up 17-7, 52 seconds left, their own 38, 7 plays, 34 yards. They missed a field goal of 46 yards, did Butker, on 2nd and 3.
Scrub.
Right? And then Pittsburgh, up 23-0, minute 23 to go at the Steelers' 31-yard line. But again, they're up 23-0. This is not a do or die. You have to do this to win the game. Mm-hmm. 5 plays, 10 yards. Fry missed the 39-yard field goal. They were 2 for 4 on those situations.
But they got a field goal, a very makeable field goal attempt
every time
on all 4 drives.
46-yarder was missed,
so
39-yarder was missed.
I think you've uncovered the deal.
Yeah.
They feel like if we give up that field goal there, we're only 50% that will go down and make the field goal to tie it. So
Butker will hit a 54-yarder at the end of the half and a 55-yarder at the end of half, but miss a 46-yarder. And Fry will miss a 39-yarder.
Yeah.
Which of the 2 are they going to miss? The 39, the 46, the 54, the 55? They missed the 2 shorties. And then at the end of the game situations, against Baltimore, they were down 36-35. 3:14 to play at their own 25-yard line with 3 timeouts.
That's almost identical.
Really close.
Because the 3:14 probably would have been 3:07.
Yeah.
Because the field goal would have gone through, or the field goal attempt
would have been
potentially, or the punt.
The play would have started at 3:14.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
The fourth down play would have started at 3:14.
Because
right?
Actually, Jamar Chase was out of bounds, so the clock stopped at 3:14. So the Bengals would not have then ran a play there.
Yeah.
Would the Chiefs have called a timeout, though, to stop the play at 3:14 when Chase was out of bounds?
But very similar situation.
But if it was incomplete, it would have stopped.
Yeah.
So very similar. They get the ball at their own 25, 3 timeouts, 3:14 to play, down 1. They run 4 total plays.
I do think the differentiating factor, when we say very similar, is that if the Bengals had punted or missed a field goal, then you're talking about it's a tie game.
For sure.
Versus being down by 1 and the desperation that comes with. But if the Bengals had kicked the field goal.
Right.
Then
but what I'm looking at is 3rd and 27. I'll give them 10, 15 yards. I'm not going to give them 30.
Okay. Yeah.
Let
them kick the field goal.
That mindset of we're not playing to pick up no yards. We're playing that we got number 15 over there, and all we would need is a field goal, and I believe we're going to get 7 the next time we touch the football. Yeah, I'll take that chance. 3 timeouts, own 25-yard line, 3:14 to go. We know the result. They ran 4 plays, 43 yards, and they fumbled on the 4th play. So really, it was 3 plays, 43 yards. Then the fumble, which happened on 2nd and 3. So the turnover cost them in that game. They were driving with relative ease. And they put 35 points on the board. Chiefs put 31 points on the board against the Bengals. Pretty similar. The Chargers, the next week, it's 24-24 with 2:14 to play at their own 25 and 3 timeouts. It's a tie game, you're not trailing. There's not that sense of urgency. 3 plays, 2 yards, and an interception. It was 3rd and 8 when Mahomes threw the interception. If they were trailing in that game, I personally don't believe Mahomes throws it up to Travis Kelce. I believe that was more of an arm punt. It's 3rd and 8. I don't really have anybody. I'm going to take a chance with Kelce. If it's incomplete, we punt. If he catches it, awesome. We have the ball and we're going to go win. If it's intercepted, it's a 30-yard punt, essentially. I think that goes through Mahomes' mind when he's out there. I believe that to be the case. Could be wrong. He might have thrown that same exact pass if they were down 26-24, 27-24. But you would have still had 4th and 8 if he throws an incomplete pass, right? So they didn't get that chance to do that. And against the Chargers, they've got timeouts. They're at their own 25-yard line. They got to go 75 yards to tie it up. And they do that. And they drive down the field with what felt like relative ease, and they scored, and they did it 3 possessions in a row, right? Except, end of the game, right? In which, they were just sort of, let's go to overtime. So they're 1 of 3 at the end of games in those situations. They're 2 of 4 at the end of half. 3 of 7.
And I would say 4 of 4 at the end of half in being able to accomplish what you want to attempt to get that 3 points.
I would say that, but the field goal has to be made.
True.
So and now maybe,
but getting yourself into field goal range, you just assume that Harrison Butker is going to make it.
So let's take Fry out of it.
Yeah,
they're 2 for 3 with Butker. So that would make them 3 for 6. It's a 50-50 proposition. 3 for 6, and they had a missed field goal, a fumble, and an interception. So while I believe, and I will always side with getting Mahomes the ball, I do think there is an argument for don't let them pick up any yards, because if you do that, then they got to punt and you got the ball tied 31-31. The odds of them picking up 30 are not great, so maybe you sack them and you force a punt. Maybe it's an incomplete and it's a long field goal, or they punt. Maybe it's 10 yards and they kick a field goal. 1 of 4 scenarios is a backbreaker. You're counting on 75% of the scenarios going your way, because only half the time in those situations have the Chiefs come through. 3 of 6 with Butker. But they were playing, it felt like, for the field goal against Baltimore. As in, like, we're down 1, a field goal wins the game. If it's 2nd and 3 and they're down 38-35, and a field goal ties the game, and they've got a minute change left, do they hand off on 2nd and 3, or are they still trying to score a touchdown?
I think they're still throwing.
Agreed. And they would have been doing that against the Bengals. While recent history, this year specifically, in some situations like that, they haven't come through, I'm still always going to side with, I'll take Mahomes down 3 with 3 minutes to go and a couple of timeouts.
Anytime you give me Mahomes with 1 minute, a minute or more, and within 3 points, I like their chances.
But I was surprised to see that. I didn't remember all of those. So going back through the drives at end of halves and end of games, eliminating kneel downs just to see what they're averaging per drive, and then looking at what they did in those situations. The Baltimore and the Chargers game early on in the season were when the offense was having the turnover problems. And it bit them at the end of both games. But if you take out the kneel downs and things like that, they're averaging over 3 points per possession this year. So just something to think about moving forward. Again, based off what we saw last week, if it's the same situation against the Chargers wild card round, if it's 31-31 and 3rd and 30 at the 41-yard line, I wonder what Spags would do at that point. We take a timeout. We come back. We continue rolling. Antonio Brown is tweeting some text messages and his bank account for some reason. Aaron Rodgers weighing in on the MVP, and a media member saying he will not vote for him. And also SB Nation has put out their top 5 teams with the brightest future, not counting teams that are already really good right now. So the Chiefs would not be that, but an interesting list. We'll get into that as well. More Zone rolling along on this Thursday right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've often said that I am so tired of how much Corey talks and he takes away the airtime from me. I mean, he sucks up all the air in the room. I can't even breathe around here, all right? My lungs need a little refreshing from time to time. Come on, buddy.
On Sports Radio 810.
Win more games, Dick. I mean, honestly, the Chiefs have really only had one drive that could come close to what they would have faced against the Bengals if they, score. If they let them score right at the end of the game.
Yeah.
At 1st and goal with under 2 minutes to play. I guess that would have been the 2-minute warning play if they let them score. So like minute 55 to go and 2 timeouts. And that was the Chargers.
The game in L.A. on Thursday night.
Down 28-21. That exact scenario was down by 7, 2:19 to play at your own 25-yard line with 3 timeouts. Now, they would have had like a minute 55, depending on if they kicked it into the end zone. Let's say a minute 50, just to be conservative here, and 2 timeouts. So you had 29 less seconds and 1 less timeout to go score a touchdown. Chiefs went 8 plays, 75 yards, scored a touchdown in a minute and 3. Took them a minute and 3 to go and score the touchdown.
That was too quick.
Without using a timeout.
Everybody thought, oh, crap, now the Chargers are going to go down and kick the field goal.
You gave the Chargers a minute 16 left.
Everybody that was a Chiefs fan thought that Charvarius Ward was going to get called for pass interference on that play where they got tangled up. Was it Keenan Allen that was down the sideline?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, oh, there's the game. Oh, what? No flag? No flag?
Yes. And by the way, that was 3rd and 15. So it would have been roughly similar. But they went 8 plays, 75 yards with relative ease. Mahomes was 4 of 6, 42 yards, and 33 yards rushing on that drive. Took him a minute 3, didn't use a timeout.
Yeah, I think that
so that's the most recent history, right? That's the most recent history in that situation with, how you would play that. That's all.
If you hadn't done it before, they need to be doing the research and finding out, okay, what happens, not just this season, but going back since we've had Mahomes. Should we fear a field goal in that situation? Because you never think they're going to, like you said, you don't think they're going to pick up 3rd and 27, even if you do all-out blitz.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they get 20, but they're still just going to kick a field goal. So you almost feel like even if you get burned, you're still just giving up a field goal attempt.
It's the first down of 25 yards or more on 3rd down that Spags, as the defensive coordinator, the Chiefs have given up.
That's crazy. And so now you go into the playoffs having done the research of, okay, especially opponent-driven, like against this opponent specifically, but in general, are we scared of Mahomes going down by a field goal and this offense going down by a field goal with X number of timeouts and this many seconds on the clock? And you come up with your formula and say, hey, if there's any chance that this is going to be over a minute and we've got a chance to come back and score. We're not going to fear a field goal at the expense of what happened to us in the Bengals game. We're not going to let that happen. We're okay with letting something underneath happen because we know we've got the chance to then respond. So it's just a chance to learn. Take what happened in this game, learn from it, and whatever you think is going to be the best scenario for your team going forward. But now it gives you something else to research and something else to know. And it's probably, who knows, maybe it's good that it happened, and maybe it will help in an end-of-game situation in the playoffs.
Because that's all I wanted to know is what's happened this year. If they're facing that against the Chargers or facing that against the Bengals or facing that against the Titans.
This is a good text. Hey,
What's
Jason, they also held the Chargers multiple times at the goal line and got a turnover.
That's true.
Talking about goal line stands.
100%. They absolutely did, and it's a great point.
And there was never a let the Chargers score scenario. But
Right. But it is a great point.
Yeah.
It really, and that should be acknowledged, too. That, while I'm talking about from that standpoint, that also happened in that game with the most recent scenario of something like that, that you had a 4th and goal at the 1, and you got to stop. And Sorensen made a play. So
couple times.
So when we started the conversation, right, we said, we're using the Bengals game as a starting point to look forward about what happens in scenarios like this. What have they done over the course of the year? I like this one that comes in and says, hey, Jason, during the last 4 days from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., I think we've sufficiently covered the end-of-the-game mishaps during the Bengals game. Maybe we can spend 30 seconds on the upcoming games. I think we
games, yes. If we knew who the second opponent from now for the Chiefs is, we'd be talking a lot about that. But nobody's worried about Denver.
Well, it's not even that, though. It's just like, this is the point. To me, that is the upcoming, because they're going to be playing close games. They're not going to be in games like Pittsburgh and Raiders. They're 58-58 against the Bengals. They
Chargers.
lost. Chargers. They lost to the Bengals. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Bills. They ain't going to run a team out of the building. I hope they do. But odds are they're not running a team out of the building. So they're going to have to make the right decisions, make the right plays, execute, things like that along the way. So what do you have to go off of for future, predictions or, what takes place in the future is what you've seen in the recent past. And it's not even the Bengals game. Like, we're not even using the Bengals game because they didn't have that situation. They didn't get the ball back. What I'm looking at is getting the ball back in these other games and what happens moving forward as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. We'll talk with Kent Swanson, and we will break down the Bengals game and the end-of-game mishaps with Kent Swanson.
We'll go play-by-play breakdown of the entire Cincinnati Bengals game.
Why wouldn't we?
With Kent Swanson. Well, that's what the people want.
Everybody wants that.
They do.
if everybody I know. By the way, I wanted to touch on just real quick on the Antonio Brown situation.
Yep.
So the latest is Antonio Brown is tweeting things out. Now, he erased the tweet that released his bank account information.
It's probably smart.
But I did take a screenshot of it, not to steal his bank account information, because
just for proof that it happened.
Yeah, we've got more money in our account than he does. Like,
I want to be able to tell my son 10 years from now, look, there was an NFL player that tweeted out his bank account information.
Right. I got his account number and his routing number. Jeez.
I hope that account is now closed and he has moved over to a new account.
Boy, how annoyed would that bank be? It was like, or I guess he doesn't have to move the bank, just move accounts.
Just change his account number. And
this is to Alex Guerrero, who is Tom Brady's guy, right? He says, hey, AG, if we're not going to work anymore, that's fine. Let me know about the $100,000 I paid you. Only fair to get back half my money. Let me know how to proceed. A couple hours later, Alex Guerrero replies, good morning, AB. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I completely understand that you want to go in a different direction. Thank you for the opportunity to work together. You're a wonderful person. I hope for your continued success on and off the field. Please let me know where you want me to send the balance. Big hugs, my friend. I don't know why he released that text. Not sure. The text exchange there, what does that prove? Except for, here's my bank account, that Alex Guerrero was like, hey, I appreciate you.
That I was putting in the extra work.
I guess.
That's how much I work for the Buccaneers. I put in extra with Guerrero.
It's odd, though. The real texts that matter are the ones with he and Bruce Arians. Mm-hmm. And this is December 30th. Thursday, December 30th at 5:14 p.m. This is, 3 days before the game. Bruce Arians says, this is BA, or Bruce Arians. Make sure you're ready to go tomorrow. We, capital R, capital not, resting for the playoffs. And then Antonio Brown replied the next day at noon. He's got the text way of going about it as I do.
Yeah. It's about as responsive as you are.
Yes. He replied, call me. So then he sends a text 2 hours after that, after he says, call me, so maybe Bruce Arians did not call him. Mm-hmm. He sends another text to him of him in the training room getting work on his ankle. And says, and he replies with that text, I'm all in, coach. Really can't get to full speed. I want to win, want to be there. If I wake up tomorrow and I feel better, I'll be ready. I kind of rolled it outside on the 2-point play. I want what's best for the team. Let me know when you're free. I'll call you. Bruce Arians then replies, says, come see me in the morning. We'll talk it out. Definitely want you with us in case you're ready. Now, that flies in the face of Bruce Arians saying he didn't know about Antonio Brown's ankle injury.
Which is hard to fathom, too, considering that it was on the injury report.
That's right. And Antonio Brown said the same thing, too. But Antonio Brown has lost benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
And faking a photo of a text message is easier than faking a vaccination card, which he already did.
I was going to say, does Bruce Arians start all his texts with everybody every time he sends somebody, this is BA? Or
I
is
thought
this
that
the
was
first
interesting.
time he texted him?
I was like, does he assume that Antonio Brown doesn't have his cell phone number?
Also, it's Thursday, a couple days before the game, and he's letting Antonio Brown know that we're not resting you guys for the playoffs. Wouldn't that have been decided like a couple days before that? This is Thursday. Like, you're going through a Thursday practice for a Sunday game. I don't know. Maybe there was something going on. If you're in Tampa Bay, you're like, well, yeah, he would need to reach out because Antonio Brown was doing this or was getting treatment or whatever. But he texts him on at 5:15 Thursday night.
I think
we are not resting our players.
What I'm picking up out of that is he knew that Antonio Brown had this ankle thing, and I'm putting it in air quotes, and he thought he was milking it. And he's saying, look, we're not resting you, essentially, is what, because there was an adversarial relationship when Antonio Brown came back from his suspension, which has been reported on both sides. He felt like he didn't get the support. The Bucs felt like he maybe wasn't fully committed, and obviously they were pissed about the fake vaccination card.
And he
had been lying to them. And had they not lost Chris Godwin, they might have cut him right then, right? So I just think that text comes across to me as BA being like, hey, don't think that you're getting to rest. Don't be milking this ankle injury. Be ready to practice and be ready to go because we're tired of your Shane.
Could be. But he would also have known about the ankle injury, which he said he did not. And there have been a couple of people that have come out and said that what Antonio Brown said happened on the sideline is what happened. That Bruce Arians came to him and said, get in the game. And he said, I can't. My ankle's hurting. I can't cut on it. I can't do the things I want to do. And he said, fine, you're gone. And then Antonio Brown stood up and started arguing and then took his stuff off and left because he said he was cut. Other people have corroborated that. I also think that people that are replying and saying, if his ankle hurt so bad, why was he jumping and doing jumping jacks on his way out of the stadium? My reply would be, yeah, he's not cutting and breaking press coverage and going in and out of breaks at full speed when he's jogging on it. He's not putting the pressure on that ankle that it would be if he's cutting and doing those things. It's different.
And that's his FU moment.
That's
if there's a little bit of pain involved, that's his FU to Bruce Arians in the Bucs moment.
Yeah, fine, I'm gone. Fine, I'm gone then. We'll take a timeout. We're going with this segment. More is on next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I feel like the sky's the ceiling for us.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The ceiling is the roof.
We're lamenting the Chiefs having the 2 seed right now with 1 game to go against the Broncos that they should take care of with relative ease. This coming from NFL Stats. Boy, if this is the ultimate, it could be worse. The Giants are the only team in the NFL to not have a record above 500 at any time over the past 5 seasons. Never 1-0, never 2-1, or 3-2, or 4-3. At any point over the last 5 years have they held a winning record in any week.
10.
But the Chiefs also didn't get a stop on 3rd and 27, so it's kind of the same. We'll talk with Kent Swanson coming up from KC Sports Network on the other side of the break. More Zone next.